Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Blue Baggers Edge, and we are here, of course, to dissect and not celebrate, but bid farewell to what is the last game for season 2025. It's been a very long, arduous season. We know that, and we came away with a win. In short, wasn't the prettiest, but it was a win. And I think this is the first time we've come away with a win in the last round of the home and away season since 2004. I saw that stat. Couldn't believe it. Still don't know if it's true, but we'll run with it. So we will, of course, chat about the stats, the full breakdown, everything else. But, of course, I just want to, from the top, just discuss, of course, the elephant in the room with regards to TDK, pretty much hands down, having played his last game in the Navy Blue, his 100th game as well, his milestone game, as it turned out. And post-game, if you haven't heard it yet, he actually was presented with a framed photo, a bit of a presentation from the president, did a little bit of a speech, and then through to TDK to add words of his own. And we do have a grab here. It is via Triple M, and we will play it right now. You can hear what he says. In summary, virtually what he says, if you can't hear it, is thanks for all the good times over the past 8 years. He says some other stuff. Keep going and do good things, team. So all the best. So it does seem as though that is a farewell, a goodbye, thank you, and we will see you in opposition colours. So let me just jump across and press play on this audio grab here. Hopefully you can hear it. I will turn it up so you can, but just have a listen to what he has to say. Very, very interesting here.
100 games, it's an honour. Played for such a big club. Can't thank the boys enough for getting the win tonight. It's huge, and yeah, it's one I'm definitely going to remember. So, yeah, thanks for all the good times over the past 8 years or so it's been, and obviously a disappointing year, but yeah, keep going and do good things soon. So, all the best.
Tom Goading speaking there after a presentation for his 100th game for the Blues. This is the Triple M Amy review. When clangers happen, it's lucky you're with Amy. I don't know if we should read too much into that, but I reckon we could probably suggest he's going.
I think so.
So there we have it. And I think they misquoted here because they said, do good things, team. But it sounds like he says, do good things soon. So, but still, regardless, you know, he's obviously celebrating all the moments, memories he's had in the Navy Blue. And I think he still did quite well to keep things under wraps and not, you know, I guess outright say that he's leaving. Not that he would, but yeah, a bit of an interesting one there just to hear those words from TDK. And it will come out, no doubt, over the next few weeks, his decision. And as I've said from the start, like, I'm not going to hold anything against him, really, because even as an avid, you know, real hardcore bagger myself, if I was in his shoes being offered that sort of money from an opposition team, it would be awfully hard to say no to it, purely because of the fact that we know in today's football, concussion can end careers prematurely, has happened in recent seasons. And, you know, Paddy McCartan's been one of those, you know, Murphy from Collingwood as well in recent times. And, you know, your career could be done within a season. So really you have to think about probably more so this sort of environment in today's, you know, footballing environment compared to yesteryear. You need to think about your financial, you know, side of things first before thinking about your football on-field accolades. It's just the way things are going, unfortunately. But, you know, with that sort of coin, you know, it's reportedly 1.8 million a season. And by all reports as well, it is a front-ended deal. So it could be well over 2 million in his first year and maybe even a bit more as well, potentially spilling over into his second year, similar to what Nasai Wanganeen-Miller is getting in his first, or his 2 years of his contract that he has now signed. So, you know, I can't blame him, and I bid him really all the best, which is a strange thing to say. I mean, would love to see him stick around in the Navy Blue, but I just think it's absolutely ludicrous that a club is offering that sort of money. I don't think, I mean, we all saw in 2024 at the top of his game, he has reached the heights where he can impact games and almost win games off his own boot. I wouldn't say outright that he does, but He's got that sort of impact. He's that new age ruckman, very nimble, athletic, can play as an extra midfielder virtually. But I just think to stump up that sort of coin for someone in his position, I think he's a little bit negligent in a sense. I know St Kilda have room in their cap, but it's not sustainable, and it's going to get to a stage where if they're paying players this sort of money, then it's going to come to a head. But hey, you do you, St Kilda. You do what you need to do, and we've been there, done that, where we've overplayed players and been in a bit of issues, I think, in the past, talking about the salary cap and all that sort of stuff. So really, TDK, all the very best to you, mate. It's disappointing, and it's not the normal circumstances where he's defecting to, say, a Collingwood or an Essendon on, a contract that's similar to what we're offering. I'm talking about Sauce here. That kind of will sting a bit more, I think, compared to TDK. Let me know your thoughts, of course, down below, comparing these two. But, by reports, Sauce is gone as well. And I think I don't like booing players, but I think if you're comparing both of these guys, I hold a bit more of a grudge against Sauce if he leaves reportedly for similar contract, numbers to what we're offering, compared to the likes of Essendon, Collingwood, the Bulldogs, who have sounded him out. So just, one of those things that, it's the nature of footy, and clubs are offering ridiculous amounts of money. So in TDK's case, it is what it is virtually. I think that's kind of my opinion. And, he plays a position that, we don't really have, obviously, the quality to replace him as yet. But, from what we've seen from, O'Keefe and Pitnet, old school ruckman, but I think with O'Keefe anyway, shows that he has, I think, potential of what it could take to play at senior level and forge a career of decent standards. So really excited for that. And, there is always a silver lining out of things, and I think that is the silver lining out of that. And obviously, freeing up money in the cap, there are really good players coming out of contract in coming seasons, and obviously having to re-sign Walsh, I think that should be our priority. And we will speak to him and his performance in tonight's game, which was just, again, scintillating off the back of, what we saw against Port Adelaide. So we'll chat about that in a moment. But I think there's a silver lining, as I said. So we should maybe have extra money to attract the likes of, not that I think we could or can, given the money that he would command, but someone like a Zach Butters. Imagine that. Like if, losing a TDK allows us to pick up a Zach Butters, that's, obviously head in the clouds type stuff, but we can dream. That's the sort of stuff that we can think about now. We have the likes of Collingwood trying to attract players of the quality of a Matt Rowell, who, is re-signed, and everyone else. So, that's something that we can now consider ourselves in the market for, where I think if TDK stayed, we would be pricing ourselves out of the market and not be in the running for these sort of quality of players. So, yeah, it's something to ponder and consider across the postseason, and, opens up new opportunities, I think, from here on out. But let's, of course, speak to this game in a bit more detail as we flick across now. Let me see if I can find this here, because it is not working on my screen. Here we go. Flick it across, and that is the final scoreline, 13-12-90, 8-8-56, so a 34-point victory. And in fact, I should go back and have a look, because I think I tipped us by 34 points in the preview episode. So I'm doing pretty well with my tips, because I tipped us to, I think the margin was a difference of 2 points against Freo, when a lot of the pundits wrote us off, and I thought we were going to be a decent chance to stick around in that game. And Port Adelaide, I think the margin was bigger than what any of us thought it would be. But, again, very, very close to the margin here. And I think I'll go back and have a look. But the back end of that episode, I did predict us to win by 34 points. So bang on. And, initially I think I said around about 50, but, it was way too much. And 34 was a more of a reasonable type, margin. But, spoke enough about TDK. Let's have a look at the breakdown of the team stats. Player stats. Let's go through these first and foremost. Now, Willow Ratings, our go-to website for, digging deeper with the stats. They have not yet had the chance to put up the those sort of beneath the surface stats. So we will go through these with regards to, obviously, the baggers. So from the get-go, Georgie Hewitt, he's hands down going to be the best and fairest winner for season 2025. He has been the most consistent player across the board. Another massive game by him. Just tireless work rate, and as I said, of a consistent standard that has been top notch. One of the few players that can hold his head high across the course of the season, and a bit of a tip of the old cap to you, Georgie boy. Blake Acres, he was okay. I mean, he had his hands on the footy, and has moments. We know that with good old Blakers, but it's you take the good with the bad when it comes to Blake Acres. But yeah, it is what it is. Provided an option along the wing. Disposal efficiency was actually better than what it normally is, 79.3%. And provided an option, as I said, just run and carry, two-way running, which you really love to see. So it was a decent finish for Blakers in 2025. Now, this man here, my favourite man in navy blue, Sammy Walsh. I've got a man crush on him, and I apologise because I do rate the man's game very, very highly. But let's just take a moment. 54% time on ground for 28 disposals, 326 metres gained, 1 goal assist, 3 clearances, 3 tackles, 4 marks. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Advanced stats. This is really, a standard. When I was talking about standards there from Georgie Boy Hewitt, to come back and have the impact that he has had in his first 2 games to end the season, now we know really what to expect from Walshy, because he's in the sort of form that we saw in the 2023 final series, where he won the best player across the final series of that season. Just craziness. 75% disposal efficiency, 23 uncontested possessions, 7 contested possessions, 4 score involvements, 5 inside 50s. Just an incredible performance by the number 18. We need to sign him up pronto. Now that TDK is leaving, frees up cap space. Sauce is likely leaving, frees up cap space. And the best thing I love about this, and if you haven't watched the game, go and have a close look at Walshy, because I've been calling for it. I asked for it in his first game back, and that was allowing him to play as an outside player where he plays his best footy. Now that is what Voss has done. He's answered my prayers, and what we've seen across these 2 games is just scintillating football by Sammy Walsh. Someone who has had to recover from foot injuries, back injuries, and we're seeing a standard that, again, was the height, the pinnacle of Walsh's career in 2023, that final series. So I am very, very excited. I know it wasn't the best season. I know we ended with a win, but it's these wins within the actual win itself that really, really give me confidence. And I think of him, the speed, the outside run that he provided, just incredible, really. And we think, Jagger Smith, the speed that he will provide as well. Geez, it just adds a different dynamic alongside Walshy, and really reminded us of how much we missed Walshy. And he's been copying shit for so long by, a section of our supporter group, and I don't understand why, because Walshy, he is making them eat their words. Eat humble pie, egg on the face, whatever you want to call it. So for those people that have been giving shit to Walshy, now's the time to eat those words, apologise, and realise what he offers to our team. And that's a lot. That is a lot. So Walshy, outside of Huey boy, Walshy was best on ground for us. Cripper, another decent game. A lot of handballs. That's kind of his game, what it's built off. Didn't get a chance to go forward and really impact the scoreboard, which is kind of what's been missing in 2025 for him. 2 goal assists, 285 metres gained. So, played 30% more game time compared to Walshy. Had the same amount of disposals, but actually less metres gained, and only 1 more goal assist. Jesse Motlop, now, kudos where kudos is due. He started the game pretty lackluster. There was, again, a moment, and I speak about this every single week. There was a moment where he was caught with the footy, yet again, like clockwork, happens once a game. And I know people might say that he didn't hear the umpire call play on. That's no excuse. I'm sorry. there was 40,000 people in the stands. They weren't roaring. He could hear. You've got to have your head on a swivel. You can have your ears open. You can't have the blinkers on. And that's what Jesse has and has shown more often than not. And part of the reason why he frustrates me, because he has talent, but it's this side of his game he needs to work on. And outside of that, I'll say that, yes, he provided actually some okay moments, some pretty good moments, some kicking, hit up targets, so did well. Did well. But again, he needs to work on that side of his game. I don't know about him playing through the midfield, as much as he is, because he's not the speediest. And again, awareness is something you need to have when you're playing in the engine room. That he needs to work on, I think, first and foremost, above anything else. So, Jesse, outside of that, it was a pass. Lockie Cowan, again, probably one of our more, not consistent players, but I think from what we saw of him in 2025 coming back into the team, he's grown in leaps and bounds, I think. So I really love Lockie Cowan. Nice rundown tackles. Has an ability to shut down his opponents, but also on the rebound as well, provide a bit of an attacking option. Ollie Hollins, decent game as well. Couple of kicks let himself down, but outside of that, really liked what he was able to provide the team. Flynn Young, really, really good game by him. 2 goals, deserves another contract from what we've seen thus far. 442 metres gained, which is right up there. In fact, the second most metres gained. The run and, the usage that he allows and provides, and his kicking is so direct. I love his style of kick. Very, very penetrative, very direct, and a very nice, I guess, debut season for Flynn Young, and needs to stick around. Another guy as well who just recently re-signed, Billy Wilson. Some really nice kicks from a youngster. Inexperienced, of course, at senior level, but showed some maturity, some experience, inexperienced legs. Was able to work forward, provide an option as well, forward of centre. Looked really good, really good. This boy here, Frankie Evans. Now, he's 23 years of age, I think, from memory. And again, I'll admit, I was giving him some shit, of course, jovially, about the fact that he was in and out, and not really showing anything. Now, I will happily eat humble pie. I will eat Frankie Evans' humble pie, because what he has shown, and consistency is the one thing that I've been bagging him out for. Well, he has come to the fore with consistency week after week after week over the past month, and kicked another 3 goals. Really, really great kicking in front of goal. Really good kicking, which has been, I've seen people, taking the piss out of him for that. But I think he has put his hand firmly in the air saying, I am taking this small forward role. And it's rightfully his. From what he's shown, he's beat out Motlop, he's beat out Durden, and we're talking about a player not just in terms of a one-dimensional defensive small forward. It's a guy that can impact the scoreboard, first and foremost. That of which Motlop fails to do. Durden, too inconsistent, but, has his moments. But Frankie Evans, my word is he sticking around. And my word is he our, potentially, he's our short-term answer for the small forward. Could he be our long-term answer? He's almost a cult figure now, good old Frankie. And it puts a smile on my face to see guys, answer criticism and do it with, a consistent base to really work off. And, it's not just a flash in the pan. It's not just 1 week here, 1 week there, like a Motlop. It's someone who is coming and answering the call week after week. So Frankie Evans, tip of the old cap to you, mate. You've finished the season like no other, really, like no other. Zachy Williams, really like, the bit of usage, the run, carry, everything else through the middle. I do like the way that he's being utilised in the middle at various stages. That I will admit. Bit of an unorthodox look to have him run through the middle, but I prefer him compared to Jesse Motlop in my eyes. Harry, 1 goal, 4, not direct, not accurate in front of the sticks, but, did enough around the ground. 11 marks, provided an option, and it was kind of that sort of game for Harry. off the back of, 7 goals straight, I think it was. Sardi, 16 disposals. Wasn't the best game by him. But Nicky Haynes, again, a really solid way to finish the season. Really loved his game. Really loved it. Just a real stereotypical lockdown defender that's able to use his smarts, push up the ground off his opponent, and provide an option when we're rebounding out of defense as well along the wing. Notice that a lot, and I really, really appreciate his experience. And that's kind of what got me excited when we lured him across. I spoke about it in the preseason, his experience. He's done it time and again, and that he provided in spades. Corey Durden, a thereabouts game by him, wasn't the best, but provided some decent, options up forward. TDK, spoke about him, wasn't dominant in the ruck at all. 4 clearances, 3 tackles, 5 marks, 4 handballs, 11 kicks, and kicked it behind. Would have been a really nice way, an apt way to finish the game with him kicking a goal, and would have really liked to have seen his celebration. It might have just been a bit of a fist pump or whatever, but it would have been nice to see the reception of players getting around him. Celebration wise, it would have been quite funny to see him, do a bit of a Queen wave type thing to the crowd, just everyone knowing that he's going. But it was a thereabouts game from TDK, and I think echo the sentiment of the supporter base in the fact that he's not worth 1.8 million. I'm sorry, no offense to him, but he's not. And if he's putting in these sort of games as well, I really do worry for him, because I hope the Saints fans don't rip him to shreds because he's being paid that sort of money, but he's not putting in, insane performances week after week. He may, but I worry about him. And I think about Tom Boyd, going from the Giants to, the Bulldogs on big money and, getting criticised on Bitcoin. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Matty Carroll, I really, really rate his kicking and smarts as well. Another player, and we kind of had this trend where in defense, we have these players that can push forward, provide an option as well, wide when we're kicking out of defense. And that he does. And he's actually a really good kick. Really good kick. 7 marks, 2 handballs, 13 kicks. Kicked it behind. Probably should have slotted that for a goal, but wasn't to be. Weeders, decent game. Just, a solid game from Weeders. Just the fist of fury, the golden fist. Ashton Moyer kicks some, those 2 goals. Smarts about him as well. Like that second goal, I think it was, which was virtually in the goal square. Little bit of handball out wide after a stoppage. Kicked an easy goal. Put himself in the right position. Hudson O'Keefe, shared time up forward and in the ruck as well. Just great to see him get a game and get run into his legs and, work off some experience of what he was able to taste from, minimum experience in games in 2025. Lewis Young, it was a trying game by him. Lucas Camporelli, starting sub, can't read too much into it, but, decent enough, 119 metres gain. Just that run that he provides is good to see. And Will White, kicked a nice goal as well. And, did a couple of, nice things here and there. But, it was a Will White type game. But hopefully, I'm a big fan of Will White and hope he can stick around because he's really good depth at that. Let's go through the team stats ever so quickly. Disposals wise, relatively even, 15 in our favour to the good. We kind of moved the ball through a lot of handballs. Didn't mind some of the way that we were transitioning the footy. There was sort of that insight into what we saw against Port Adelaide, where we were moving the ball quick when needed to be, and we held the ball when there weren't, outright, I guess, options to kick the ball to. So we were more patient and whatnot, but given the style of the game, it was, a lot of congestion, a lot of flooding from both teams. So when we were able to break the lines and use the corridor as well, which I just love seeing, and that's kind of been a feature over the past couple of weeks, especially in that difference in setup and game plan. So thank God Voss has seen the light there, and I don't know who's consulted him, but whoever it may be, if it's right or someone else, it's working. So that was good to see. I mean, it wasn't clean every single time we did it, but we did it. And when we did, it looked good. Inside 50s, 58 to 39. No real surprise there. Above our season average. Now, in terms of scoring shots, we had, 25 to 16. So we should have won by more than what we did. That's for sure. Let ourselves down in front of the sticks. But, it was thereabouts. Disposal efficiency, 77.3% to 77.2%. Efficiency inside 50, as you can see there, no surprise. The Dons a little bit better. Stoppage-wise, relatively even actually across the board. For the hitouts, 28 to 30, 2 in our favour. Clearance-wise, that's where it was won. Spoke about it in the preview. That was an area of the game that we were going to dominate in, and we did. 11 to the good. Centre clearances as well, just a bit of a breakdown. 10 more in our favour, and stoppage clearances, only 1 in our favour. Not flavour. Contested possessions, 117 to 115 in Essendon's favour. Uncontested possessions, it was, I think from memory as well, looking at the preview of this game, I think we averaged more, as you can see, there. We averaged more contested possessions compared to the Dons, but it was actually 2 in Essendon's favour. And then Essendon had better season average for uncontested possessions compared to us, but we actually were better than them. So a bit of a flip on the head there, but, relatively even-ish. But it was 16 in our favour there, and the even-ish that I'm referring to is the contested possessions, 2 in the favour of the Dons. Turnovers, there were 3 more for Essendon. Marking-wise, we outmarked them to the tune of 15 in our favour. Marks inside 50, we had 5 more, and contested marks, we had 4 more. Both of those were round about the mark of season average and kept Essendon to just below for marks inside 50 and around about on par for contested. Scoring-wise, 13 goals, which was above our season average of 11.3. Essendon were slightly below their season average, 9.6, having scored 8. And behinds, slightly below par for them, and for us, slightly above par. But that's not necessarily a good thing for kicking more behinds, obviously. Defensively, tackles-wise, we had 7 less than Essendon. And it was a very low tackle game, I mean, compared to both teams' season averages. But that sort of game again. Tackles inside 50, we had 5 more than the Dons. And 33 1%ers to Essendon's 29, which is good to see. And that's pretty much it. That rounds things out for the, breakdown of stats, everything else. It was one of those games, I think, that going into it, it was going to be not the most scintillating, not the most attractive watch, but we came away with a win. And, I think that is what we should be taking away. At a minimum, it's that sort of season, as I said from the top, that, a win is a win. And, yes, it wasn't the most attractive, but, we'll take it. We're kind of at that stage now where the season's been so far gone that we'll take any sort of win at the moment. But it wasn't in the same style that we saw against Port Adelaide. A bit lackluster. And I think it was just a case of the boys just being like, it's the last hurrah. Let's just, put in what we can and not, I guess we weren't humbled by Essendon at any stage. They had a team that was decimated by injury. But we have to remember as well that we actually had a fair few youngsters in our team as well. Ashton Moyer, Will White, Billy Wilson, Hudson O'Keefe, Flynn Young's another one, inexperienced as well, Matty Carroll. So there's quite a number of guys here as well, to our credit, that speaks to the rookies that we were blooding compared to the Dons that were kind of forced to blood these rookies off the back of injury. So there are some silver linings here and key takeaways, but, as you can see here with the Worm, it was a very, very, substandard game. It was just it was a win. It was a win, and it was consistent across the board, I think. The Dons did challenge us ever so slightly, in the first half of the third quarter, but, we kicked away and came good, and then, kicked away again in the last quarter. So, yeah, that's virtually it. That rounds things out for the last game of season 2025. Let us know your thoughts down below. What did you make of this game? What are your key takeaways? What are your thoughts around TDK? And the positives as well, like Walshy coming in and dominating it again. 55% game time. What are we now building off the back of these last 2 wins that we had for the season? Obviously attention now turns to the off season, the trade period first and foremost, and then the draft, of course. But, first and foremost is going to be TDK. He will be gifting us a first round pick with the length of contract and the money that he's going to be on at St Kilda, which will be, I think if we finish 12th, it will be, I think it's pick 6 potentially, or pick 7. It puts us in a position, I think, where we can, obviously match any bids for Harry Dean, but hopefully we can get in another high pick and we don't have to dissolve that pick. But even if so, do we potentially trade that pick for a first rounder next season in return for some, high draft picks that we can potentially, use the draft capital or draft points to match any bids for Harry Dean, and, puts us in a better position for the draft in terms of getting Cody Walker for next year. So a few machinations to play out, but we will discuss all of that, of course, in the coming episodes across the off-season, post-season, whatever you want to call it. So there is a lot to play out in the back rooms as well. We have, movement in the other footy department. We have assistant coaches that will be let go. And then, of course, as I was referring to there, TDK is going to be the first domino to fall, Sauce potentially after that, and then, of course, the listings and whatnot as well. So we will be chatting about all that, players to keep, potentially, pondering players, to move on. We'll be discussing all of that in coming content here on Blue Baggers Edge. But just want to take this opportunity to really thank all of you out there for tuning in, week out. I do apologize as well. I know, I've been wanting to have consistent episodes being put out at a, consistent timeline, but such is life at the moment that it has been quite hectic. And I've spoken about in the past, obviously having a newborn, over the past couple of months, it has been a very, very hectic time in my personal life, and balancing this, which has been kind of a bit of a hobby, more so than anything, and being able to provide a platform not just for me to chat about my passion for the Blue Baggers, but also provide a platform for all of you out there to join in the discussion and create a community that just shares the love for the Baggers. So again, thank you so much for tuning in across 2025. This isn't the end, of course. As I mentioned, there will be content en masse coming out across the off season, so stay tuned for that. But just to end as well, if you have enjoyed our content, please consider giving us a subscribe, because that's the best way to let us know that you are enjoying the content that I have been producing. So again, thank you so much in advance for doing just that. But outside of that, ladies and gents, we'll leave things there. Again, let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and we'll be back with, of course, news coming out as we head into the off-season and look towards season 2026. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next one. Go Baggers.
Have you ever heard